been getting a lot of requests for the beginner version of the jazz piano workouts, similar to what we did for intermediate players. So here it is. This is an in-depth series designed to start your jazz journey at the piano. And just like the intermediate book, we're gonna work one key at a time, one key per week. We're gonna split each workout into two sections. In the first section, we focus on the diatonic seventh chords of the key. This is an essential first step with drills designed to help you assimilate the sound of the key by playing drop voicings, which are foundational in jazz harmony. This section also functions as ear training, since you're constantly hearing how the chords relate to each other within the key. And in the second half of the workout, we introduce a number of core jazz concepts. You'll not only learn how to play them, but also the terminology behind them, including 1/7 left-hand shell voicings, upper structure triads, the flat 7/7 modal interchange chord, guide tones, consecutive 2/5 progressions, tensions 9 and 13, the major 7 and major 6 equivalents, the 2 and 4 perspective for swing, rootless voicings, and a basic 1-2-3-5 walking bass line. I know this might sound like a lot at first, but once you understand the logic of the workout, it'll take you about 5 minutes to play through all the drills in any given key. And that efficiency is intentional. It allows you to practice every day in each key without turning your practice session into a boring marathon. First, we're simply going to play the C major scale. Next, we're going to play the diatonic seventh chords built on each degree of the scale. Notice that these are root position chords, meaning we're building them by stacking thirds. Every note belongs strictly to the key of C major.
Next, we're going to invert the voicing by moving the bottom note up an octave.
So C major 7 goes from this to this. Some jazz players refer to this as a second inversion drop 2 voicing, and here's why. This is C major 7 in root position. This is first inversion, the third E is on the bottom. This is second inversion, the fifth G is on the bottom. In this position, the second note from the top is C, the root. If we drop that note down an octave, we get this voicing. That's why this can be called second inversion drop 2 or second inversion drop root, since the note being dropped is the root. Let's do one more inversion. Now the seventh of the chord is the bottom note on the right hand. You can think of this as a third inversion drop 3, or again, a drop root voicing. Next, we're going to play the notes by following the circle of fifths, but starting on the 7th degree of the scale. Harmonically, it's essential to understand the order of notes around the circle of fifths. If we look at the C major scale, we can start on the 7th B and move around the circle of fifths to get all the notes of C major. It's also important to notice that we end on F, the 4th degree. So at the end, I add a plagal cadence to bring our ears back to the tonic. Now we're ready to combine the drop voicings with the circle of fifths. In the next exercise, we're going to play each diatonic 7th chord by moving around the circle of fifths. Finally, in jazz, the most important progression is the 2-5-1. So we're going to start by grouping the diatonic chords in sets of 3 following the circle of fifths. B to E to A, E to A to D, and so on. This helps you internalize the most important root movement in jazz. But we're also going to use voice leading to move smoothly from chord to chord. So B minor 7 flat 5 to E minor 7 to A minor 7 sounds like this. And E minor 7 to A minor 7 to D minor 7 sounds like this. Notice that the first chord in each set is always in root position, with the root on the left hand. That means the lowest note on the right hand always starts on the third of the chord. The voice leading is always the same. From B minor 7 flat 5 to E minor 7, the bottom note is a common tone, and the top two voices move up. From E minor 7 to A minor 7, the middle note is the common tone, and the outer voices move up. Every other set follows exactly the same voice leading. And remember, all of these are diatonic chords, so you're only playing notes from the C major scale. This is also an excellent ear training exercise, so make sure you're actively listening to the harmony and the voice leading as you play. As a final challenge, we're going to turn each set into a real 2-5-1. Technically, the only true 2-5-1 in the key is D minor 7 to G7 to C major 7. All the others are secondary 2-5s resolving to temporary targets. To transform the previous exercise into 2-5s, we only need to turn the middle chord into a dominant chord. Now, this is where I want you to start thinking like a jazz player. When you play a 2-5, you always think about the target chord. If the target chord is minor, we play a sharp 9. If the target chord is major or dominant, we play a natural 9. So for A minor 7, we play B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 sharp 9. Same idea for D minor 7, but for G7 and C major 7, we use regular dominant 9 chords. So now that you've practiced all the drills in section 1, your ears should be more comfortable with the kind of dissonance we commonly use in jazz voicings. The first thing I want to introduce is the 1/7 shell voicing on the left hand. For each chord, we're only going to play the root and the 7th. That's it. These are called shell voicings because they contain the minimum amount of information needed to imply the chord quality. If you've never played jazz before, these voicings may sound a bit dissonant at first, and that's usually why players avoid them, and why they often aren't a part of a beginner's vocabulary. But after working through the drills in section 1, your ears should now be able to fill in the blanks. At the end of this exercise, we add a B flat 7 sharp 11. This is a non-diatonic chord, also known as a borrowed chord or a modal interchange chord, because it doesn't belong to the key of C major. It's the flat 7/7 chord, and it's quite ubiquitous in jazz. We're also voicing this chord using an upper structure triad. An upper structure triad is a triad played on top of a shell voicing, and it must contain at least one tension, tension 9, 11, or 13. In this case, we're playing a C major triad on top of B flat 7. That gives us all three tensions, the 9, C, a sharp 11, E, and the 13, G. We're also using an upper structure G major triad on top of C major 7, which contains the 9th, D. So here's the next drill. In this exercise, we're following the same root movement as before, but now we're turning every other chord into a dominant chord. Since we're moving around the circle of fifths, each pair of chords forms a 2/5 progression. On the left hand, we're still playing 1 flat 7 shell voicings. On the right hand, we're playing the guide tones. Guide tones are the 3rd and 7th of the chord. These are the notes that define the chord's color and function. When you connect guide tones smoothly from chord to chord, you create a melodic line that outlines the harmony. This is called voice leading. Notice that common tones stay fixed while other notes move chromatically downward. This is always the case in consecutive 2/5 progressions, like the ones we're playing here. It's worth mentioning that we're doubling one of the guide tones. This isn't necessary or recommended in performance, but this is a training workout, so it's fine for now. Now we're going to play the exact same progression and voicings, but in 4/4 with the metronome set on 2 and 4. Notice that we're not playing straight eighth notes. We're swinging them by delaying the upbeats ever so slightly. How much to swing is a more advanced topic, and different players have used different amounts of swing throughout history. The best way to learn this is by listening to jazz players, just like how you might listen to native speakers when learning a new language. If you've never practiced with the metronome on 2 and 4, this will probably feel like the biggest challenge so far. But trust me, this is extremely important. Hearing the pulse on 2 and 4 while you play will instantly improve your feel of the time. In the final two drills, we're going to explore tensions and rootless voicings over a 2-5-1 progression. Remember, chords are built by stacking thirds, so any chord can be seen as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. The 1, 3, 5, 7 portion is called the lower structure. That's your 7th chord. The 9, 11, and 13 are the upper structure, also known as tensions. For example, a minor 7 chord has 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Now try this. On the left hand, we're still playing 1 flat 7 shell voicings. On the right hand, on D minor 7, we add the 9th. On G7, we add the 9th and the 13th. These are called rootless voicings because the root is not present on the right hand. On C major 7, we're also playing the 9th D, and we're alternating between major 7 and major 6 chords. In jazz, these two chords are considered equivalent. When you see C major 7, you can usually play C6 and vice versa. There are a few exceptions, but that's a more advanced topic for a later video. Finally, we're going to play these same rootless voicings, but now in 4/4 with a walking bass line and rhythmic comping. This is a simple 1, 2, 3, 5 walking bass, and it sounds like this. And that's it. Practice each exercise for an entire week until you can play everything from memory without looking at the score. Don't think about the notes. Think about each concept behind each exercise and let your hands follow. Next week, we'll move on to a new key. You can download the PDF on Patreon or at mDecks.com. If you want the complete 12-week program, check out Jazz Piano Workouts Beginner Volume 1. And just like the intermediate book, it includes all workouts in every key, a demo video for every workout so you can hear and see exactly how each key should sound. And of course, we'll be adding these tutorials to the dedicated playlist for the book so you can follow along step by step.